Okay, students, today we are going to discuss the Solow model of growth. Okay, um, this model of growth was built by Professor R.M. Solow, and it is an alternative to the Herod-Dahmer line. The Solow model of growth, in particular, is probably the best known model of economic growth, and this is because it is the reference point. It is the reference point for literature on growth and development. Growth and development. Kan say don chuan he growth he model hi Solow model of growth hi paimo em ani chuanin enge ngatinge it becomes the best known model kan ti chuan it is a reference point ani ma he growth and model va explain nan chuanin he a reference point tan hangtlang pui ni, and it also implies that economists will conditionally converge to the same level of income. Kle mazong in introduction peta ila economy re reng hi income ngai ranga nom don chu and saving rate emo le depreciation te kan labor force productivity te hi ngai ranga om chuanin kan income level po ngai rengin om don ti kha sei tu mania chuanin Herod-Dahmer ne na adang lam na ki modification na chu Solow model hian enge he capital le labor hi substitution aphal na kha point poimo to kan thria tur chu ni ta ni tlem zongin soibel le ta ila Solow model kan soi don chuanin neo-classical growth model hi kan thria tangaya chu Herod-Dahmer ne na danglam na nei ve ni mo chung tlem te kan entura chu entenan Herod-Dahmer kha chuanin in recall don chuanin factor pakhat chia angai poimo ni tro chu capital ania mase Solow model le he neo-classical model kan ti hi chuan multi factor production function ati chu production function a khan in share tur chu land labor capital entrepreneurship kha kan ti ta tro chuan Herod-Dahmer kha chuanin capital chia kha a consider ta neo-classical ho ve thung chuanin labor chu ni lawin labor le capital le technology kha mi te pathum mang khan he model hi an form ta ni chuanin panina chuan classic neo-classical kan ti hi Herod-Dahmer ne na adang lam na pakhat le chu kha labor le capital kha substitution in kha key modification from Herod-Dahmer to a substitution na kha capital le labor and substitute thei na kha substitution le complementary to in sianga tro chuanin adang le a chuan Herod-Dahmer model hi chuanin capital output ratio kha constant reng ani ki kha asoi boka chuanin Solow model hi kan end don chuanin it focuses on four variable to output aninga kan end zelanga output to y kan ti khanita chon capital stock kan ti k chuan labor force l knowledge or effectiveness of labor e te khanita ni chuanin chu mai ba ka chuanin Solow model hianin how is it built, what is the background of the model kan ti chuan Cobb-Douglas function kha production function kha it is based on this production function Cobb-Douglas production function kan ti kha homogeneous degree 1 kan ti constant return to scale kha assumption alo mang masaber ta ni chuan he model build tu hi a slide ta kan en chuan Robert Solow kan ti Massachusetts of Technology College atanga 1950s khan aron duan ta a hemi wang hianin Nobel Prize pa dong heng he ni so this is these are some assumption that is available in a book by Emil Jingan. Okay, it is in page 368. Okay, so these are the assumption. Lakabudangan and assumption naka attend to say pui nan zia kang attend to enge equation nen zong sung nan ziak do na kha lo buai chuan lo tur asoi tum tak a major assumption chu pakhat na kan thria tur tu hemi mai ba het tami hitle ma zongin composite commodity ati hi chu final product pakhat che om ti na ni mai ni buai chuan lo tur kha chu chuanin output hi gross in om lawin net in om thung ani chu om zia chu depreciation na kha consider chu herod domar ne na adang lam na po kha ni ta ni chuanin ka Cobb Douglas function among kan ti kha chu ta aman na chu constant return to scale kha ti ta ni chu that means it is homogeneous of first degree om zia chu capital emo labor emo kha 10% in tipung ta ila output kha 10% thoin apung don ti na khani meya homogeneous of first degree kan ti khachuan chu pathum na an lau kha assumption khani meya chuanin assumption palina chuan factors of production kha labor and capital they are paid according to marginal physical productivity pero marginal productivity khachu in shetura ngai ta ila and the marginal productivity of labor ni chuanin labor pakhat kan employ bela khami kan employ bela zera output at tipun vezel na kha marginal productivity chu ni me capital poni se capital kan pun bela output apun vezel na kha asoi tumna ni ta chuanin price and wages are flexible full employment of labor full employment of available stock of capital te chuan labor and capital substitute table heng te hi in focus daw tur chu ni ta ni and there is neutral technical progress at boka chu technical progress sakha omlo ta se mo technical progress sakha kan assume ta ni omlo tur anga ngai ani ta chon saving ratio kha a constant ate boka ni kha assumption hi apoi mo dia wani mo model are reng chuan okay chuanin kan en le ta ila chuanin he assumption chen khat poi model do lo ombel le chu government sector ra kha ain rol lo tina ani boka heng som ho assumption mai ba ka khan chu saving kan nei ang zong kha investment an mangani ani chuan s is equal to 1 kan tiang kha ani ta ni chuanin khang ho do kha assumption a ring ta mai la atok mai o me chuan Solow model a model a lu ta ila chu a model a kan en hianin kan thia tur chu pakhat na chuan ama sabera chuan production function kha kan thia ka tur ta ni chuanin panina chuan steady growth rate kha entinge kan ateng theyang ma entinge kan wa mu theyang kha steady growth rate kha ti te chuanin entinge khami Solow model atanga extension va theyate population growth te technical progress te lo ta se entinge economic growth hi ramhian kan nei theyang ti kha kan endon ni chuanin tuna kan en masak ber tur chu production the aggregate production function kan ti hi nia chu for the product of an economy ha mathematically it is presented by y is equal to the function of klt nita se mo production kha y lo nita chuanin output kan ti pon ni meng chu kan thia tur chu he production function kan ti hian supply of and demand for goods tia present turani chu goods supply to le demand to khanom don ta khata tang khan output of the economy kan ti kha kan hu thei don ta ni chuan Solow hianin enting nge he production function hang hian enting nge growth hi capital stock growth in capital stock as also in labor force and advances in technology interact in an economy, and how these three factors no capital stock le labor force le technology khan he factor pathum te hian and tinge nations output ta kha affect da na kha te lang ta ni chu how total goods y kan ti hi goods and services kha and tinge affect da kha atilang ta ni. So the main tool for this analysis is the production function. Okay, to a supply side le a demand side ta tang khang kan endon ta a supply side ta chuan supply and this demand for goods plays a very important role and perhaps the central role in Solow model of growth. He production function kan ti emo supply of or demand for goods kan ti emo hian Solow a model a central role buan tu chu ni. Okay, the reason is that from the supply of and demand for goods we can determine how much output is produced at any given time, as also the pattern of allocation of this output among various uses. Okay, so anin ama sabera kan thia to chu he function hi enzer ta ila tero supply of goods kan ti emo the supply of goods kan ti hi production function at chuan this states that output kan ti kha ni main supply of goods kan ti kha so Solow kha chuanin alo a model state dana chuan he states that output or supply of goods depends on capital and labor force satitani capital and labor force. Okay, capital labor force ay natani atitani mo chan hey a diagram kan mo ang po yan. So this assumption is based on the CRS function kan ti kha nachina assumption na kan sai to ang khan constant return to scale function na ay natani mo tu homogeneous degree of production function na homogeneous degree 1 kan ti khan ni tani so nachina kan sai to ang khan input labor emo capital emo 10% na kan ti san chuan khammi 10% ve khan output sang kha khang kha constant return to scale kan ti khani. Okay, so output hi heta poi mo ta wa chu production increases why production or output increases kan ti khanin increase of one factor kan ti entenan labor emo capital emo kha engapo kha input ka kan ti san chuan this will lead to increase in output, but the increase will be in diminishing. Okay, diminishing o oma chuan increase in both factor oma constant factor both constant return ta mase Solow ha chuan constant return to scale mangani hi kan sei to tara chu apoi mo ani chuanin he supply market hi kan endon chuanin we have to begin with this production function and assume constant return chana equation chu ti hian lo om don ta ni lekha budanga chuan he equation hi he output is equal to the function of kl kan ti ta a chuanin output kha lo dang lam ta se z y mo kha dang lam na athena chon delta y lambda y polo ni mai thei enga po chu ni se confuse tuan lo tur a lo dang lam na kha ni mai by z is equal to 1 by labor atita ni tro so labor mangkhan he function he explain ta ni so output per worker is a function of capital per worker chuanin production function supply side lampang chu y is equal to the function of capital dekhan chuanin he hi diagrammatically pan a present theya chu marginal productivity of capital marginal productivity re rang chu a slope function a slope tilang tu ni ta ni change in k or change in y alo om khanin tikhanin a slope pakha lo danglam thin ta ni so it tells us the change in output per worker that follows an increase of 1 point of per worker capital tikhan kha Solow supply side lama alo state dan chu ni ta ni chuan demand side lam entai la demand side chu en lawa khanin macroeconomics sa khanin en chuanin consumption le investment kang khanin aron explain ta national income accounting te in zir chuan income is equal to consumption GDP anganita y so is equal to consumption plus investment aditani tero chuanin kha consumption na kha Solow he function entir na chu national income identity yati khan sector panhi che a consider tinani tani macroeconomics kan zir lai chuanin timayang in recall thei chuan y is equal to c plus I plus g te omthin kha taro khata khan 3 sector model ne heta chon 2 sector mangkhanin omzia chu government atel lo nakha aron confirm che tani assumption amman nakha tero government kha a enroll velo mo economic activity ya khan chuanin heta atilat tuma chu investment is equal to saving mo investment atober equation kha entawla I is equal to s asterisk y tikha so this shows that investment is equal to saving okay saving which is the product of saving rate s and income per worker tinani tani s asterisk y comma what this means is that in Solow model the rate of saving is equal to the proportion of output devoted to investment no rate of saving is equal to the proportion of output devoted to investment okay kha demand side lama soilan tum chu ni ta ni note han enula in par or to rangai ta ela kha equation and zir tau chuan in using those long run akhan entinge Solow model hian how do we attain the long run equilibrium at point where y and k are constant atile tani chuanin so what's important now is that an increase in saving rate leads to an increase in investment. So this in turn will lead to increase in growth rate. Here diagram in the economy start with any saving rate, suppose, and this increases saving it will increase our capital stock. So now if let's look at now the diagram, the saving rate increases. Okay, a curve enki lo nita. Chuanin hemi zara hian kimi DKT inti ki a curve ring ki kan enjon investment curve kan ti khanita ni saving a san na ka chon investment a sang ta tro upward tin akal beta. So at the original saving rate, original chu he lama 0 point atang an tan ambul tan naka enta ula mo chuan okay kaka a full diagram chu ni ta ni. So saving rate ka original atang akhan capital stock le saving rate ka tirlam khalo ni ta se the amount of investment is just sufficient to offset the amount of depreciation atitani tara chuanin. So as soon as the saving rate rises, they can a curve ki athau ta zela investment po khathau be ze mai ni. But since both capital stock and depreciation remain unchanged in the steady state, capital stock le depreciation nakha steady state a chuanin low ta ni se tro in equilibrium investment exceeds depreciation atitani chuanin. As a result, the capital stock continues to rise. So this process goes on until the economy reaches the new steady state kanti chukha point. At this point kanti DKT equals SYT kanti lai khanitani hemi athing ta amo the new steady state chuanin heta kan mu ang khan ha curve khan huai lama kal ta daya investment kha chung lama chho ta dai ta ni an increase in saving rate tro and this capital stock grow towards a new steady state tro greater than the previous one tikhanin khata tanga kan en khachuan kan thathiam mai ome. So the main message of Solow model is that saving rate is the proximate determinant of the steady state capital stock. So what this means is that there is positive correlation between saving and investment. So there is direct relation between saving and growth rate too. And this relationship holds only in short run. This means that an increase in the saving rate leads to faster economic growth. Hatia a diagram kan en po khan saving sang na to investment po sang vezel ti kha kan thutluk na ni ta kha temporary chau ani ti kha ti lang ta ni ma se Solow khan. If the economy is able to maintain high saving rate, it also succeeds in maintaining large capital stock and higher level of output, obviously. But high level of capital stock, high level of output do not can. It does not maintain a high rate of growth for indefinite period of time. Chatuanin khathil kha ring thailaw ani chuanin long run na cha entukpan investment siam mala entukpan saving ti ma ila long run na chuan thil dik ani reng law tinakha aran tilang ta. One reason is because of the diminishing marginal product of capital khalaw nitani tu marginal product of capital substitution oma wang khanin capital kan han tampo le labor kha effect veta labor kan lo man tam chuan capital effect ve substitute table an ni awang han khami taka kha englawa khanin assumption apoimo na chan pakha poni tani. khami theng kha original Solow model kan ti chu ni ta a chong kha to tang khan extension om le a sustained growth kha and think most countries of the world ta kan think explain ang the only source of economic growth in Solow model is capital accumulation ti kha aron ti chiang ta saving rate le capital accumulation kha atam chuanin it leads to high growth for some time hatita mase economy it eventually reach the steady state in which capital and output remain constant kan tia chu Solow model a khanin khang mai ba ka kham population growth lo ombok se technological progress lo ombok se and tinge economy kha kalang ti kha atilang boka chu extension a kha na omboka population hi fix low ta se mo population hi pungreng ta se population and labor force kha apung vezer don tinani tani chuanin kha population te labor force te pung vezer khan effect ve chu it modifies this population growth modifies the basic structure of Solow growth in three ways chu number 1 na chuan achieving steady state kan ti chu population growth alo om khan number of workers kha asang ta tro chuanin total capital le total output must also grow at the same time if the steady state is to be maintained tro steady state ta om kan durang chuan capital kan ti pun nga ya output kan ti pun nga kha population growth va compensate tur kha chuan tro chuanin panhina chuan income kha alo danglam ve theita ni population growth khani this explains why some countries grow rich and other remains poor Solow model mang khan when there is increase in population growth it reduces the steady state level of capital per worker kha aron tinhiam vele tani so if the rate of population growth increases the new steady state has lower level of capital per worker and the Solow model is thus able to predict that countries with high population growth will have lower level of capital per worker and thus lower level of GDP kaka explain theta dai tani chuanin atop pera chuan population growth takhanin it determines the golden rule kanti consumption maximizing level of capital kanti karon explain vele ta chuanin chu capital consumption per worker kanti kha aron explain that tani the golden rule states that the marginal product of capital equals the rate of growth of population the Solow model basic original Solow model akhatwan the economy reach its steady state output per worker remain constant kanti khatron sina kan explain lai po khan to explain persistent or self-sustaining growth we have to incorporate the level of technological progress into the model technological progress lo khachuanin alo harta ni tara technological progress khan it increases output indirectly technological progress khan zia so it raises the productivity of existing resources labor poni se capital poni se productivity kha aron tipungta so this alters the relationship between inputs that is capital and labor and outputs of goods and services chuanin he kha golden state rule kan ti khanita chuanin the Solow model with this incorporation of technical progress the Solow model can surely explain the much observed sustained increase in the standard of living in much of the capitalist world around technological progress alo khanin hey in developed countries how standard of living low san zel da me te po kha explain thei ta ni tro chuanin poimo le do pakhat chu apart from this we're going to look at there are many sources of growth. The Solow model the Solow model shows how saving, population growth, and technology progress interacts in determining the level of and growth in the standard of living of nation. In focusing on upward part of the economy, the Solow growth model does not examine how the economy adjusts in temporary shocks such as war or financial crisis. According to Solow model, the sustained growth in income per head is the result of technological progress. The model takes technological progress as exogenous. It does not explain it. In truth, the determinants of technological progress are not clearly understood. So the Solow model, it is a dynamic model that allows us to see how our endogenous variables like capital per worker, output per worker are affected by this exogenous variables or what we call savings in this case.